I'd like to thank the Kentucky Hemp Industry Association and David for inviting me out. Definitely need to thank Doris Hamilton and Kentucky Department of Ag for everything they do in terms of orchestrating the hemp program here in Kentucky. It is probably one of the model programs in the country. Other states are looking at Kentucky to figure out what the heck to do now that we're growing hemp. So without further ado, I've crammed a lot into a few slides. I think I got 25 minutes to talk about it. I need to be disciplined and keep myself rolling. I tend to ramble. I'm excited about hemp. And it's great to be in this room and see, I don't know what the capacity is here. What, 200, 300 people? Something like that? A couple of years ago, I was over in Crofton giving a hemp workshop, and it was me and Katie Moyer and Austin Wright, who's Kentucky State Extension, and Doris was there, and I think there were maybe 6 or 7 people sitting in a little crescent around us, right? And then the next year, that room was too small. And now we're here with people standing in the back here. So this is awesome to see all this excitement. I'm excited about this stuff, and I'm already rambling because of my excitement, so I just need to be disciplined. I think Doris probably showed you guys a slide or some data, gave you guys some data similar to this earlier. This is showing you what people are growing hemp for here in Kentucky. In 2014, when the pilot program came online, I think there was a little bit of a sense that, we were historically a fiber state, and grain is interesting, and we're hearing a little bit about these cannabinoids and what they might be useful for. But I think the sense was that grain and fiber might be, we'll just pick up where we left off in the 1800s, early 1900s and roll. But, farmers are, if nothing, very practical and intuitive in figuring out what works for them. And, before long, we had a significant percentage of the producers here in the state growing for cannabinoid extraction. So at Kentucky State, we have done a little bit of everything over the last 5 years during the pilot program. That's with my predecessor, Mike Bomford, and then when I came in and picked up with it. So everything that we have done has been primarily focused on organic production, and so I'm going to focus a lot on that during this presentation. I'm always a little hesitant about what to present. Some of this stuff people have probably seen before, but with the population in the room keeps growing, there's guaranteed to be some people who haven't seen it. So I was going to talk a little bit about some of the things we've done in the past, and then I'm going to jump forward into what we're currently doing in the direction of our program at Kentucky State. So we had a great collaboration with Alltech, looking at some of their products on organic grain production. So we were using Soil Set and Grain Set. Soil Set was OMRI listed at the time we started using it. Since we did this study, I've had Megan Clark at KDA confirm that Grain Set is also suitable for use in organic applications. And I believe, and if someone from Alltech is here, they'll correct me, but I believe that has also been OMRI listed since we conducted this study. But we wanted to basically look at the impact of these biofertilizers. What these products are intended to do is to stimulate the microbial community in the soil, enhance nutrient cycling in the soil, and hopefully provide you with better nutrient uptake in your crop. And so we wanted to see what they did in hemp. We applied Soil Set at the time of seeding, and we applied Grain Set about 2 weeks after emergence. And what we saw the year I got to Kentucky State was 2016. Before that, I was at St. Catherine College growing hemp with a bunch of nuns. That was fun. Josh Hendricks said I was coming in to give comedy, so that I got a couple laughs there. What we saw was when we applied Soil Set and Grain Set in combination, we saw a significant increase in biomass, both in 2016 and in 2017. I want you to note that in 2016, we used Fedora 17, and in 2017, we used Futura 75. So this is overall plant material produced. How big were our plants in general? And so the combination of those products significantly increased the biomass of the plants relative to untreated plants. When we looked at grain, that is how much seed are we producing, in 2016 with the Fedora, we did see a significant increase in grain production. In 2017 with Futura, no, not so much of an increase in grain production. It wasn't a significant increase in any case. And there are a couple things I'm wondering whether there's varietal differences, whether Futura might be more prone to seed shatter. Time of harvest was a little bit different, and I think our crop had dried down a little more, and we may have lost some seeds because of that as well. So, but 3 out of our 4 parameters that we measured showed that these products were giving us a little bit of an increase in production. And it's great because, again, these are products that are able to be used in organic production. I need to get back with Alltech, and the next thing I want to look at is, can we apply these to plants that we're growing for cannabinoids? Does that have any impact on cannabinoid profiles? So that's something I'm going to circle back with Chuck McKenna and Stephen Borst over at Alltech and find out if we can do some further collaboration on that. As far as what we saw in the study in 2016 and 17, we think that some of this really is coming from enzyme activity. Dr. George Antonius at Kentucky State did some soil analysis and found higher levels of urease in the soils where the Alltech products had been applied. So we think that the Alltech products are doing what they're supposed to do. They're stimulating enhanced nutrient cycling. I brought this study to Kentucky State. I was at St. Catherine College from 2014 to 2016. St. Catherine College is now defunct, and I got out right when everything was kind of going south, so I consider myself very fortunate that I was able to find a home at Kentucky State that not only enabled me to conduct some research, which is why I was really interested in going to Kentucky State, but also kind of saved my butt from a closing school. I had a great experience at St. Catherine. I can't say enough good things about that. They allowed me to get this program started. I'm a soil scientist by training, and so when I first heard about hemp being grown in Kentucky and learned about this dew-retting process where you're lying these stalks of hemp on the soil surface to facilitate fiber extraction, I thought, well, you're putting soil carbon on the soil surface. So I really wanted to study the effects of that. I work in organic, and in organic, our mentality is the sole key to soil quality, or the most important key to soil quality is managing your soil organic matter. And the more organic matter you have, the better your microbial community is going to act, the better your nutrient cycling is going to be, and so we really focus on that in organic. So what I really wanted to see was, well, if you're laying all these stalks on the soil surface, again, we kind of thought fiber was going to be, and it's not to say that fiber is not going to eventually be a significant player, but in Kentucky, again, most of our work is for cannabinoids, but this was the second year of the program, of the pilot program, and so we got into this study with dew-retting and looking at the effects on the microbial community and the soil organic matter. The idea there is that we're laying these stalks on the soil surface, we're stimulating microbial activity, that's essentially carbon that those microorganisms are going to feast on. This is one of my favorite slides to use in presentations. There's a plant root, there's some fungi growing throughout the soil. And the microbes in organic systems are the things we really want to focus on and keep them happy so that they do their job in nutrient cycling. So we set up an experiment where we had 4 different treatments. We had an experimental control where we didn't grow any hemp and we didn't do any dew-retting. We had plots where we had hemp production but no retting. And then we had 2 rates of retting, a higher rate and a lower rate of amount of stalks left on the soil surface. And those stalks were left on the soil surface for anywhere from 22 to 30 days, depending on the season and the moisture that we got during that fall. So we were looking at total carbon, that's basically a measure of organic matter. Labile carbon, which is basically the carbon that microbes can easily access. And we used permanganate oxidizable carbon to test that. And then looking at some microbial community parameters, fatty acids, to measure whether our fungal communities, our bacterial communities are reacting to these applications. I'm going to focus on the soil organic matter data. the carbon parameters, and we're still kind of working with Dr. Lisa D'Angelo over at University of Kentucky. She lets me spend some time in her lab to get some of the work done on measuring microbial communities. But for now, I'm going to present the carbon data. You can see where we laid a whole lot of stalks on the soil surface. We actually saw a significant increase in total carbon in 2015 and 2016. The trends there in 2015, 2016, it was actually a significant difference. 2017, this was the last year we conducted this study, and I'm going to try and get this stuff published this year as soon as I get the microbial data off the computer over at UK. But we saw the same trend. So where we had the highest rate of hemp on the soil surface, you have the highest rate of, I don't want to say increase, and I'll explain that in a minute. You had higher levels, significantly higher levels of both total carbon and permanganate oxidizable carbon, which again we could think of as microbial accessible carbon. And so the reason I don't want to really think of that as building soil carbon is because we're taking all these stalks off the soil surface, right? What's really happening is you're leaving just a little bit more behind the more material you're leaving on the soil surface to ret. So you know, anytime you're taking a significant quantity of plant material off the field, you're taking carbon with it, and so you want to offset that in whatever way you can. In organic systems, we grow cover crops, we apply manure, we apply compost, but any little bit helps. And so a higher level of material on the soil surface during that retting process, if you're trying to do organic fiber production, that may help things out. We have shifted gears, so those two projects have basically wrapped up, and reports have been sent to Alltech, and I'm working on getting the retting project published. But we've kind of shifted gears at Kentucky State, and you know, I was hired there as the assistant professor of organic agriculture, and all I seem to do is talk about hemp. So I thought, well, maybe I can merge both these things and you know, wear an organic hemp hat, right? So 65% of hemp production in Kentucky is for extraction of non-psychoactive cannabinoids, or non-intoxicating, I should say, cannabinoids. I figure if that many growers are interested, you know, my role is also as extension, and so we need to have some outreach to give information to producers that are interested in this line of production. So for the first time at Kentucky State last year, we did a very small pilot study, variety trial, using plants for cannabinoid extraction. We grew Workhorse, which is an older cannabinoid strain, and then Box of Remedies, which came in from a breeder up in Maine. And we got these seeds late. The Box of Remedies, in any case, came in kind of late. We had some hiccups. Doris held my hand very, very gently during the process of getting these seeds in the state, but we didn't really get them in until July, and we planted. So we just thought we'd keep it small and see what we'd get. So we tried a couple of different spacings, 15 inches, 30 inches. Some of the CBD growers are growing at spacings of up to 5 feet in between the plants. So it depends on the growers to have different preferences, but we just wanted to get a little bit of information. So this was early August. This is what they looked like in October, right before harvest. You know, I don't have the data all worked up yet, but it seemed like the plants actually grew better at the tighter spacing. I don't know if there's some kind of interaction going on there as far as signaling between plants or what. We need to do a little more research in that, but you know, we got some data out of this, and we've got the plants currently the flower has been sent off to Proverde Labs up in Massachusetts for cannabinoid and terpenoid profile testing. This is a project that I found really neat last year. I worked with Mike Hickey and Craig Lee of Madison Hemp and Flax, and they came to me with some seed for KY Plume, which is a hemp variety that is descended from some of the fiber hemp that was grown in Kentucky in the 1800s. Last year was a hell of a year. I mean, we had a ridiculous amount of rainfall, and it just seemed like when you needed conditions to be one way, they were the other way, right? Whatever you were looking for, you weren't getting last year. So our organic grain and fiber production, which I'll show you some pictures of here in a little bit, did lousy. But this variety, KY Plume, which came from South Dakota, there's a great story. I don't have time to tell you the whole. Get Craig Lee to tell you the story if you ever see Craig. He'll tell you very, very, very. He's a great storyteller. That's what I'm trying to say, and he'll give you all you want to know about KY Plume, and then some. It's a very fascinating story. The seeds came from South Dakota, where they had been on a Native American reservation, the Pine Ridge Reservation, and Craig and Mike Hickey here got them back into the state of Kentucky, and we've been working with them. The goal was to grow certified organic seed, and so last year we grew this. It was the best looking hemp that I had on the farm, I think, and we got about 6 pounds of certified organic seed, and I need to get back with Madison Hemp and Flax and figure out what the next step is as far as using that germplasm to take things new places, develop new varieties. We were working with cannabinoid hemp in high tunnels last year as well, season extension. We were playing with the photo period a little bit, so we hung some incandescents in the high tunnels to stave off flowering. That's not for additional production, that's just to keep the plants from going into flowering. And so you can see here September 5th, everything I had on the farm at September 5th was going pretty heavily into flowering, but you can see here we're still vegetative in the high tunnels. I turned those lights off about 4 days after this picture was taken, September 21st. You can see some flower production. This is what they look like in October. I don't know if you guys can see the differences in this picture, but one of the things that really struck me was the sheer variety. Now this all came from seed that was supposedly the same variety. This plant is dark purple. This plant is fluorescent green. I mean, they're related, I guess, but I'm not sure, with what the, and here's same stand, right? Same variety, fluorescent green, and you can really see the purple in this picture. So one of the things we need to be careful of going forward, is really making sure that some of the strains that we're working with are stable, because this is, again, seed producing vastly different phenotypes. I'm really interested, as I said, in organic production, right? So 2040, NOP 2040 came out in 2016. USDA clarified that we could indeed grow industrial hemp and label it USDA certified organic as long as we were a certified organic operator, operating under the auspices of a state-controlled hemp program. Why would we want to do that? Well, in general, organic products make a little more money than conventional products. They're harder to raise, for sure, but they make a little more money. This is showing you the percent above non-organic price for a variety of different production lines. Produce, processed products, dairy and eggs. Over here you've got organic food corn and organic feed corn, and the green line represents conventional corn, and that is dollars per bushel. So you can see organic sells for a little more. In general, globally, organic products sell for roughly 30% more than conventional products. SeedCX is a marketing firm up in Chicago, and they put out a study a couple of years ago, and they said Colorado, Kentucky, and Tennessee currently have the most well-established hemp programs. Thank you, Doris. And they will best be able to take advantage of the recent change in organic certification. This year, myself, working with Tony Silvernail, who used to work with me at Kentucky State, and now he's out independent, we have founded the Kentucky Organic Hemp Cooperative. We are working with a lot of different producers, trying to get processors involved, and we really feel like organic is a space that is going to be beneficial for producers and processors because of the price premiums, but also look at the number of people in this room, right? There are a lot of people getting into hemp. This cannabinoid market is going to get hit with a lot of product pretty quickly. And so people willing to take the extra steps to get certified organic may have a leg up. People are looking at this stuff as a health supplement. And they're going to be conscious of whether or not these health supplements have pesticides or herbicides in them. And I think Canopy, I need to talk to the Canopy guy after this about the cooperative and what we're trying to do with the cooperative. But that's something that, we think, we're going to try and follow the state motto, right? United we stand, divided we fall. So we figure we have more power to work together and make good things happen as a cooperative. So the last thing I want to talk about, and I want to wrap up, I might be running low on time, David. David Chicken said yes. With all this in mind, we're still doing some fiber and grain research at Kentucky State. I'm excited for the cannabinoid work, but I'm also excited for to work with Growing Warriors and Victory Hemp Foods. Chad Rosen has helped us out with this. And Third Wave Foods has jumped on board in this project as well. We're looking at fiber and grain varieties in organic crop rotations in Kentucky. We're going to focus on soil quality, crop productivity. We're going to look at economics. There's our rotation. I'm not going to dwell on that too much. We really want to compare how this stuff does against other crops. What's it look like against the corn in that rotation, right? Again, soil quality, weed control. That Dr. Woosley gave a great presentation earlier about what the work they're doing here at Western. Organic systems, weed control is probably one of the top-rated problems that farmers have. So, for everybody complaining about there's nothing on label, well, welcome to the world of organic producers, right? Because that's what we deal with all the time. Last year was a challenging season. This was my organic rotations initial trial on July 24th. What you see here is my Kentucky State University hat. The logo is conveniently turned away so that nobody really knows this is Kentucky State University. I'm not proud of this plot, right? These plants are probably 1.5 feet tall. They're well into flowering. And that, to me, I think was a red flag. You could see some male flowers there, and the female plants have some flowers on them too. It was just such a stressful year for these plants. I think their response was, we got to flower, we got to do something because everything is hard this year, so we got to flower and try to reproduce as quick as we can because just things ain't looking good. And that was true for our fiber crop. We had Futura in here. This is our grain. This is X59 grain plants, but we had Futura in there as well, and we saw the same thing with Futura in the fields where we had great stands of Futura the previous years. The beauty of organic. You guys might not, any entomologists in the room? What's that? That's an aphid. Yeah, that's not something beautiful that you want to see on your crop. But these came in with a bunch of clones. I suspect they came in with a bunch of clones. It came from Colorado. And this week, this picture was taken yesterday. I noticed some aphids. There's a lot of aphids on our cuttings. We're getting ready for some work this year. We got cuttings in already. We want to get in early. I think the aphids came in with them. We got them from Green Cherry Organics out in Colorado. Well, Green Cherry, I think, is doing something right. Even though they sent us aphids, they also sent us ladybugs. Because right there is a ladybug larvae that we didn't release any. The larvae were in there. So that's one of the things I love about organic. You're working in an ecosystem. I have a lot of people to thank. I don't know if I have time to do it, and David's shaking his head no, so I'll shut up, and I'll be around for a little bit. If y'all want to ask me questions, I'll be mingling in the hall here for a little bit. I might have to leave a little bit after lunch, because tomorrow we're doing hemp again at Organic Association of Kentucky. So thank you all for your time.